So with UFC 324 going down this Saturday, Gaethje versus Pimblett, the media day took place yesterday, and Justin Gaethje had a few things to say about fighter pay. He was saying about his bonuses and how they don't add up to $1 million, and that he hasn't been getting paid any more than he would have following this Paramount deal, this new Paramount Plus deal from ESPN. He hasn't been paid a dollar extra, a penny extra, and we're going to kind of go through that today. I'm gonna give my own opinions on it, and I'll show you the video. And then there's some other stuff. There was like face-offs, and I'm sure you've seen it maybe on Instagram or Twitter. There was like face-offs where it was like for like cinematography, cinematic face-offs where they'd have the fighter standing and it'd be like a camera for like the promotion, I guess. And it looked really good, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. But first, I want to get into this Gaethje thing. So before we go into it, please like, subscribe, it really helps out. And yeah, well, I'll show you this video. So basically, this is Justin Gaethje saying he hasn't been getting paid more. So I'll just play the clip.
Bonuses and not equal up to $1 million is not right. It's not right. It should be a lot more than that. And I should have had opportunities to do smarter things with my money, but I don't, and I haven't. I hear Daniel Cormier saying that everybody's going to get paid more on this card. I'm not getting $1 more than I would have if this deal did not happen. So.
Yeah, so that's basically him saying, Daniel Cormier said that everyone's going to get paid more because the UFC went from this. What was it? It was with ESPN. It was like $1.1 billion for 7 years, since from 2019 to 2025, or 2018 to 2025, I should say, or whatever, 2026. And then this new one, 7 years from 2026 till I presume 2033, it was $7.7 billion. And that big jump in contracts, obviously from 1 to 7 billion, or almost 8 billion, you're going to expect bigger payouts, bigger contracts for the fighters, more fighter pay. Like that's the kind of been the kind of narrative over the past 10 years, 5-10 years, is like fighter pay. Fighters, compared to boxing, fighters are underpaid. Like UFC fighters are like the scum of the earth in terms of combat sports. They don't get paid anything. They don't get any medical insurance, any benefits. Essentially, that's kind of what everyone says. And they're having to work. You'll hear these stories of like up and coming fighters, and it's like they might just be in their first couple of fights in the UFC, and they're like, I have to fight, but while I'm training, I have to be like a second job at a waiter or something, like washing dishes or something. You hear some of these stories. I think it was I can't remember who it was, but there's a couple of years ago there was like a story like that. But you do hear this sometimes, and it is like, yeah, fighters do need to get paid more. But coming from Gaethje, I'm thinking more like the kind of maybe obviously to start them off on like 12 and 12, because that's the kind, I believe that is still the minimum contract, 12k to show, 12k to win. That's not that much. If the UFC want to like kind of show themselves as this prestigious organization, and make it a bit more, because I believe the problem with the UFC is they let in too many like smaller fighters. Like they'll have Dana White's Contender Series where they will have like sign like the whole card sometimes. That's what it feels like. They'll sign like what, there's 10 weeks. There's like 5 contracts, 3 to 5 contracts a night. They're signing like 30 to 50 new fighters each season, each year, and and it is so cheap for them to like pay them, because it is only like 12k to show, 12k to win. Like if someone wins, it's 24k. That's like nothing to the UFC. That's half a bonus. So they can sign a lot of these new people and kind of filter out. Maybe some of them will become stars. Maybe some of them will become kind of like fodder. I guess you could say they could just fight all the time. Some of them obviously don't get very far. It's a good way of filtering out into new stars. Whereas like they get, instead of signing like these big new people, they'll get the little ones, and then they'll kind of make them work their way up, but do it for cheap. But they should have bigger pay. Like they should have an increased payout for the new people, because I don't want to see like 10, like like 100 new people, new fighters every year, because it doesn't really, you don't really care about the fights that much. Obviously, you will get little stars. Like recently, like last year, you had like Malcolm Wellmaker, people like that. Obviously, he lost to who was he lost to? I've just, that oh, what was his name? The guy he just lost to. Like it was like a huge upset. You get guys like him, and that's like a good story, but a lot of the fighters you do not care about at all. Like especially coming off Dana White's Contender Series, you don't care at all. And if they put the say they hired less people, they signed less fighters, but the pay was better. Like say you started off on 30 and 30, that'd be a lot better. I feel like because it is too little. The 12 and 12, it is too little to be, for the UFC, and the UFC is this big organization. It's the pinnacle of mixed martial arts and the pinnacle of combat sports or whatever. They should pay them more. But in terms of Gaethje, which is the kind of main topic I want to get onto, is Gaethje. I don't know why he's complaining about fighter pay. Yeah, okay, don't get me wrong. Gaethje's a good fighter. I love to watch Gaethje fight. He's very entertaining. He's like somewhat entertaining on the mic. Like he's like okay on the mic. His fighting kind of carries him because he's like this brawler. He either not gets knocked out or knocks someone out. He's like a do or die kind of guy. Obviously, he'll have some decisions, but for the most part, he's like a do or die guy. But Gaethje saying like in the clip there, he said, he's not had the opportunity to like do well with his money or whatever, and it's like, what? He's like a millionaire, and he's saying like he wants more pay. Not to Before I say this isn't me like saying like I'm really rich or something like that. This is me saying that you know Gaethje only fights once a year, maybe twice if you're lucky, because this is Gaethje's Tapology page. Obviously he's fighting Paddy now, and he fought Fiziev almost a year ago, and that was a decision, so it wasn't even that bad of a fight. And I'll get into that. I'll get into the aftermath of that fight. Then before that, he fought Holloway the year before that, and obviously got knocked out, suspension, whatever. Right? That's fair enough. You want to argue that. Before that, it was Poirier when he won the BMF, and that was like a year before that. To be fair, in 2023, he did fight twice. Fair enough, but still. And then before the Fiziev fight, year before that, it was the Oliveira fight, and it wasn't even like that bad. He could have fought later 2022, but and then the year or what was it? What's that like? 6 months before Chandler, yeah, whatever. And then the year before that is when he fought Khabib, and it's like he never fights. He barely fights. In the past, what, 6 years, he's fought. In 2 years, he's fought twice. And yeah, one of them was the Holloway knockout. Fair enough, but he never fights like that frequently. And when he doesn't fight, he wants to sit out for title shots. After the Fiziev fight, he last year, after the Fiziev fight, when he beat Fiziev by decision, the Fiziev that was on like 11 days' notice, when he was supposed to fight, Dan Hooker here, he said, I want to shout for a title shot. I couldn't find the actual quote, but this was like from, I believe Ali Abdelaziz said it, says here, on an interview, that Justin Gaethje he might retire if he doesn't get a title shot. Like this was last summer. This was said. So it's like a lot of the time Gaethje will sit out. Gaethje will get 1-1 and then just sit out and want a title shot. And it's like, brother, like if you're like wanting more pay, fight more. That's probably one of the reasons why the UFC don't want to give you more pay, because you just sit out and you don't like fight that often. Not anymore, anyway. The kind of latter, or sorry, the former half of his career, the first half of his career, he fought like a bunch. He would fight all the time, and now he doesn't because he started getting to the very top, and now he's getting title shots, and you lose a title, but you get one win, you might be back in there, and there's no point in fighting or no point in training and then fighting another contender because you might lose, you might not get the title shot, and you might be out of the picture. So he just like waits out. He did this after the Chandler fight in 2021 UFC 268 when he fought Chandler. Right after, I cannot find. I spent like 20 minutes trying to find the actual video. I swear that he said this. It was after Michael Chandler. He said he'd wait out. He'd sit out and like wait for the title shot, and he'd like riot if he didn't get the title shot. So, and before he fought Oliveira, he wanted to sit out. He wouldn't fight anyone, even though it was, he fought Chandler, like, and before that was the Khabib loss. So he'd lost one, fought Chandler, and now he's demanding another title shot. He said he'd sit out, and he said this again after the, like, he lost to Holloway, uh, then he beat Fiziev a year later, and he's like, wait, I need a title shot, even though there's like 10 people in front of him. it's like, or not, I'm exaggerating, but there was like Arman, there's, you know, Topuria had just knocked out, what was it? Just knocked out Oliveira. Topuria's a champ. Arman was like next up. Uh, Makachev had already been announced at welterweight. You know, Holloway was in the picture now. I think he had just probably beaten Poirier last summer. And it's like, I don't understand why he wants the title shot. Gaethje's not even that entertaining, like outside of his fights. He's obviously really entertaining in the fights, but outside he's like okay. He's not terrible, but he's not good at the same time. So it's like, and I'm a firm believer in that the UFC really want you to be like a good mic person. I mean, that's kind of obvious, but it's like they really want you to be a good mic person. If you're going to be demanding money, demanding more pay from the UFC, you need to have good promotional skills. Like, say, you can't just let your fights carry you. Uh, you can't let your fights carry you. You need to be better with your mic skills. And even for Gaethje's sake, that Gaethje is what, 35, 36, something like that. He's old. He's in the kind of twilight era of his career, and this is, like he said, this is his last. If he loses this, he's probably done. Maybe done. Maybe he'll have like one more fight after if he loses. But this is definitely most likely like 90% sure the last title shot he's gonna get. If he loses, that is. Obviously, if he wins, he'll get another title shot against Topuria. Obviously, that's an interim championship. That kind of goes with the saying. But yeah, he's in the later half of his career. He wouldn't. The UFC probably wouldn't want to pay him any more money anyway because like he's only going to fight a couple more times, maybe, and they don't want to be giving him like big contracts when he's like literally about to leave. Because it's one of those things. It's like, what if he leaves and he goes to do like, you know, he'll want to come back because a lot of these fighters do want to come back. They don't want, like, say Gaethje leaves for a year and then he's like, oh, I want to come back, and it's like he comes back and it's like the UFC are still paying him because he might still be under UFC contract, but he's retired. But he might come back. You know, he's old and they want to. Gaethje's still on like whatever, like $1 million contract a year. I think I'm gonna assume he's on like a 500K contract or like a 400K contract, just based off his popularity, because he is quite popular, but he is aging, and should he lose this fight, I'm sure is kind of his popularity will decrease, and so will the UFC's interest in him. So that's kind of all I have to say about the Gaethje thing. Yeah, we should have more UFC pay, especially for like fighters starting out. But if it's like him and he's been up the top and he's been in so many title fights, so many main events that I don't know why it's a problem for him. Just kind of maybe be smarter when you're fighting, maybe not brawl too much, and then you won't have to sit out for too long, or even just don't wait for title shots. If you want more money, fight more. Like, the whole reason why you're in the UFC is to prove you're the best. If you're the best, you'll fight anyone. Just fight them. You're gonna get paid a lot anyway. You're on like a half a mil contract anyway. So plus you get all your bonuses, and it's like literally this media day is him getting paid. And one other thing, he signed the contract. He signed the contract when this fight was made, and accepted that pay. He didn't say no. I want to negotiate for a new contract. He didn't phone up his manager and be like, oh wait a minute, with this new Paramount deal, the UFC is worth like way more. Why don't we negotiate for a new contract? I'm like a big face of the UFC. You know, I'm one of the biggest stars in the division. I'm a big fan favorite. Why don't we negotiate for a new contract? And it's like, even if it's just a bit, even if it's like maybe bump it up 50K or whatever, it's like you signed the contract, therefore you can't really complain about this because you signed the contract for the fight because you knew that it was a blessing that the UFC gave you the interim title shot, because it should have really been Arman against like Holloway or something. You know what I mean? But no, it's or even Gaethje or even Pimblett rather. But yeah, he didn't. So I don't. He's the one in the fight. He's the one signing the contract. I don't really see how he can complain about it. Complain about it in between fights, sure. When you're not under contractual obligations, can't speak. But yeah, don't do it at the press conference when you're literally getting paid to do it at the press conference. You know what I mean? Because this is media day. This is their weekly obligations where they have to do this. It's like they get like a 10K bonus or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, that's all I want to talk about that. And then the last thing I was going to say was the face offs. This was uploaded yesterday. It was part of the Paramount deal or whatever. I guess they're upping the promotion, which I'm very happy about. I don't know how this promotion is going to be used because one, we're very late on in the week. It's now Thursday, and the fight is on Saturday. It's a step in the right direction. I imagine this will literally just be used for like maybe an advertisement, or maybe like actually during the kind of build up, like during the event, maybe that will be part of the promo, or like part of the say the ceremonial weigh-ins, something like that. I would prefer if they were to like this, because this is like one of the big things. They have them in the room and they're facing off each other and all that stuff. I said this before, and this has been said by many other people like in the past. Have them do like a 1v1 like discussion, like a 1v1 discussion where they're going at each other at a table. They have a moderator. It can be like John Anik sat in the middle, and they're just kind of going at each other. Maybe John Anik reads a list of questions, and then they both can answer it, and then they kind of both go back and forward, like two fighters going back and forward. Maybe have a bit of heated beef. Gaethje and Pimblett have kind of sparked this beef. Gaethje was saying he wants to like kill Pimblett and stuff like that. He wants to end him and all that stuff. And that would be good if they had that kind of discussion table, like that time they did it with Dan Till and Jorge Masvidal. So that would be good. It'd be good if Paramount did that, or they've kind of, because it feels like Paramount, since they pay all this money to sign with the UFC, feels like they're probably like maybe like giving the UFC like come on, like really firing up the UFC, not firing up, but more like a gun to the head kind of thing, like that. They're like, you guys better do this because we need the numbers up because we paid that $7.7 billion. So this is probably part of that. Maybe it's also hype as well. It's like to hype, the new Paramount Plus era. It's going to be exciting. But yeah, I love to see this. They also did it with Sean O'Malley and Song Yadong. I think it's only for those two fights, I believe, because those are like the co-main and main. So I'm excited to see how these come out in the event, whether or not they'll be used in the event, or the kind of just for promo. Who knows, right? But step in the right direction. They're in the room. You might as well do the 1v1 like discussion or whatever. But I also seen someone say like if this happens like one time, they're gonna get two fighters doing this, and it's gonna not be good. Like think of two fighters that this would not be good for. Like say a Hamzat and like someone else, like because Hamzat's like unpredictable. You know what I mean? You couldn't do this with some other fighters, but it'd be funny if that was a thing. Like they tried it and then just a big fight breaks out. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. So that's all I want to talk about today. And again, please like, subscribe, helps out. Comment if you disagree or if you agree. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.